our last talk in this current block of talks is Vanshika Jain, and she is a data product manager at Microsoft, and she presents on data science and automation.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. Okay, since morning I have been evaluating who's going to be interested in data product management, right? In a bunch of data scientists. I was ready to throw this presentation out, and I was like, okay, I don't know if anyone over here is very interested. So I'm hoping the group here is actually interested, that's why they are here. So quick show of hands, is anyone a PM in this group of people? Oh, that's good. Okay, anyone who wants to be a PM, turn a data scientist into a PM. Okay, that's fair. So I have few people who are very interested, few people who I might be able to get interested. Okay. Okay. So let me first start a bit about myself. What's my story? I have reinvented myself a couple of times. I started in consulting. I did a master's in fashion after my computer engineering. I landed a role in cybersec consulting in Deloitte, and then I moved into Amazon Fashion again, building a computer vision / machine learning product for Amazon. And then finally, I'm working in Azure for customer experience and support org. I basically build data products for reliability and support engineers in Azure. So that's like in the nutshell of what I do. I come from India, I moved to Seattle, right now I'm in Vancouver, but I travel quite a bit to Seattle because unpopular opinion, love it. Okay, so what I'm going to cover today. So a little bit about who is a data product manager. What are data products, right? Till now we only knew about product management. What is this new thing? Phases of building a data product. I'll probably just cruise through this and finally cover why you should not do it. Okay. So who is a data product manager? Just like traditional product managers, we sit between data scientists / data analysts and product management skills. So we need a little bit of both so that we can develop a product intuition and data intuition, so that we can help our customers and make their life better. So PMs basically manage data analysts / data scientists. This is a pretty Venn diagram that I made. So in traditional product management, our key stakeholders are software engineers, UI, UX team, and our business stakeholders / users. A data PM comes with its own feature crew, and that the first circle, the first Venn diagram is called a feature crew within Microsoft. And the second Venn diagram, the data PM comes with their own feature crew, that is with a data scientist and an ML infrastructure team consisting of data engineers, and they work alongside feature crew to land a data product for their customers. Now this data product can be a different systems like AI, ML system, or it can be a metric, and I'll cover that in types of data product. But that's like the broader sense on what are stakeholders. So for a data PM, it looks like this crazy Venn diagram, right? Like I work with a lot of people. So at a certain point in time, I have like 20-25 people that I'm talking to. So my social life is my world. And it's a lot of fun. I really like it. So I work with like my data scientists and ML infrastructure team, software engineering team, the UI UX team, my users to understand their requirements, and the product manager who's actually looking at the UI and UX. These circles may look different for different people in the industry because sometimes data PMs are also product managers and sometimes not. So what are data products? I think in a very straightforward definition, data products create competitive advantage for the companies. I'll take a couple of examples from today's conversations, right? For example, in the search example, we have Google Maps versus Bing Maps. If Bing Maps is able to give a better relevancy score over Google Maps, then of course Bing Maps has a better competitive advantage. So that's one type of example where data products give a competitive advantage to companies. So as data scientist or a data PM, it's my job to understand how is this data product going to deliver the business impact that is required for this company to be successful or for my organization to be successful. So at the end of the day, the companies are here to make money and we have to always understand that part. So how can our data products be the key differentiator for my company to build a competitive advantage? I'll unpack this statement with further types of data products. I'll first start with what we have been hearing since morning, the AI ML systems, chat GPTs, birds, I don't know, what all did we talk about? Time series forecast, I've heard it all. I learned a lot of new AI ML systems. But these are the conventional systems that you all work with, you guys build, you guys research day in and day out. And this is an end-to-end system with data input, model output, processing system. And this is one type of data product. It sits behind a feature, which is a wrapper. So you must have worked with in industry where some system is like chat GPT. GPT is the model, but chat is the wrapper, right? Where it's generative AI. So as a PM, I also developed the wrapper around the model, which includes the UI UX mocks, includes how the user is going to consume the data, how it's going to have responsible AI. When I say responsible AI, basically the ML model is being used for the specific intended use case it is there for. So as a data PM, I'm also responsible for the wrapper and for how the data is consumed. That is the accuracy, precision. If it's a difficult model, like if it's something that requires higher precision, then I'm also interacting with the data layer of it. So that's like a couple of examples that I included, like pretty famous ones, right? LinkedIn recommendation, Amazon product recommendations, etc., etc. The second type of example here, I also added an example. This is the Teams transcript. I love this product, especially it brings more inclusivity. If there are accents that you don't understand, having a live transcript in Teams is really, really helpful if someone hasn't used it. So this is another ML AI system. Now again, some product manager must have thought, this has to go on the right rather than the left. How should it show up? And the same product manager would also have thought that, hey, how wrong can the transcript be, or how right the transcript has to be. Moving ahead, the second type of data product, metrics. Now, you must be thinking, how can data science relate to metrics? Like, we deal with models, why do we need to develop metrics? Metrics are one of the most important data products that I have dealt with. I just heard a Zillow presentation where she has come up with time to pending, where that is when a house, if someone has heard that, the time when a house goes to sale to pending, and the indicator is like 1 week or 2 weeks. Now for a certain LT, for a certain leadership person there, it might be very important that the time to pending is very, very low. And that is where now the data scientists / data analysts come in, who can help define that metric. And those metrics are defined with important statistical analysis, assumptions, and design principles. And that is something probably a business intelligence person may do it, but with certain statistical skills as well. So it is very different than dashboard and visualization. This is about developing key metrics that will inform important business decisions. Another metric example, which are famous ones like CSAT, NPS. These are famous ones, but this might not be pluggable for your leadership. I know in my org we have CSAT, but we had to build another metric on the top of it for my leadership to consume. For example, customer health score. This is a metric that our team developed, a team of data scientists who had assumptions, principles, design principles, and the intended use case to suggest that, hey, what's the health score of the Azure customer, such as the famous one being you now. Moving ahead, this is more like a subset, that is the data insights and basically used to communicate the intent. Now this is similar to what I said with metrics, but this is the process there, that sometimes your users would be very interested on how you landed on the model, or how you created that metric. Even the process is sometimes very useful for the stakeholders. For example, when you are looking at bag of words, right? There is this beautiful word cloud that a lot of data scientists make. You must have seen, it's in Python libraries, they make a beautiful word cloud. Even that is useful for your stakeholders, and that's a data insights that believe it or not, it'll inform those business decisions. So these are the data insights that are sometimes really helpful for our businesses. So that's like the summary of the types of data products that I covered. And I deal with one type or the other on everyday basis. Now, these are phases of building data product. Most of you know about all of these phases. For me, in my real world examples, these phases are not linear. We think that, hey, once we do feature engineering, now we can turn to modeling, cleaning is done. Believe it or not, by talking to the stakeholders, you'll realize that I did not solve for the entire. This feature engineering doesn't, I have to go back to the business understanding. This doesn't solve for that intended use case that I started to. So I'll talk about the challenges in the next slide and cruise through this. But at the end of this, the business understanding, the data understanding, and finally the modeling, I call it POC complete, and each of these types that I discussed will lead to different steps. For example, in an AI/ML system, we'll start developing the wrapper that I talked about. That is the UI, how it looks in the feature, how am I going to get the feedback. In the metric development stage, I will probably give it to my software engineers to start building the data pipeline, and similar thing for the data insights. The only key thing over here for me, when I say modeling, it doesn't necessarily mean ML or AI system. It might be just, it mean that I'm developing that business approach to create that metric, or I'm developing the approach to bring in the insights. So modeling may or may not mean the machine learning model that you create. So, okay. So this slide is very important for me, and I'm going to talk in depth in the next 3 minutes. That's the time I have. Don't think of it as challenges for a data PM. Think of it as how can you help data PMs, okay? How can you help PMs like me to really talk about your models? Business understanding. During this phase, the biggest challenge is that stakeholders still think ML is magic. Stakeholder expected, it must be resonating to most of you who work in the industry or who have experience in the industry. Stakeholders would come to you and tell that, hey, solve world hunger, right? And during this phase, the most important part is you go to the stakeholders with leading questions. And when I say leading questions, you ask them question, what is really the business problem? And why do they want to solve this problem? And that's where you understand that this is probably, they don't need a machine learning model. They probably need some kind of rules-based engine where they exactly know what the output needs to be, and they want you to automate that and code that in a certain logic. And you'll get that during the business understanding phase. Modeling phase is just the 10% of the entire product creation. And that is something that I have learned over the past 1 year working as a data PM. The third one, assessing their appetite for false positives. This is connected to what we discussed in the first bullet, right? Now, I can give you an example. For example, healthcare companies are trying to predict cancer, right, in patients based on parameters. And then there are people who are trying to find t-shirt size. So, which has more appetite for false positives? Of course, trying to understand the t-shirt size. You will clearly understand whether you need to build a glass box model or a opaque model. Because you need to be able to track back on why a certain classification has been made or prediction has been made. That's where your business understanding comes in handy. Talking to stakeholders and your users comes in handy. And if you understand that and have the visibility, you can take all of this intuition, your product intuition and the data intuition when you're doing modeling. And this is one of the key things. Like most of the models, as I said, I work for reliability and support engineers. And they're probably dealing with high stressful situation when an incident comes in. Most of you who have worked in the industry, they would know about incident management systems. And they are really like, on-call engineers. They have to wake up at 2 a.m. and I cannot be providing them false information. Think about it, like as an on-call engineer, you get a wrong ticket. You're gonna next day, you're gonna go to that data scientist and be like, I woke up at 2 a.m. To solve that incident. So you have to provide the right, so the accuracy level are like 99.999, just like availability nines. And that's when you know that this is probably a rules-based engine you need to make rather than a machine learning model. And business understanding is one of the most important phases of a data product lifecycle. The next one's data understanding and preparation, again, has a ton of industry real-life examples that I can give you. One of them is big corporations have data elements. People won't even know this data exists in that X part of the company. And that's when having that comprehensive knowledge of data available, like where is the data available, will come in handy as a data PM and a data scientist, because then you know what problem can you solve. Because a ton of times you're like, we don't even have the data. And even we have, then the data quality is not great, right? So, and then relevancy, of course, whether the model you're trying to make even can be created with that data. The next one is if ML is required. I've talked about this in length and I can share more and more examples. And finally, helping stakeholders understand. Now this is an important one, right? Traditional product managers, they come in with their business requirements. They will create the UI UX docs, get it signed off from the stakeholders, and then go and create that feature with their software engineers. So now the users have that understanding that, hey, if I say that I want to solve world hunger, they'll start coding it with their software engineers. But with data PMs, you have to establish the expectation that it's a more engaged partnership. That is, we need to be involved in hypothesis testing, experimentation, and basically have more time investment from stakeholders with data validation. Finally, during the POC complete, the only one I want to talk about, given the time, is model adoption. Now, a ton of times you must have gotten this, right? We don't trust this model. At least I have gotten it. We are sitting on this POC and no one wants to adopt it because no one understands why it's outputting something. Why did it predict a house is going to sell? Or why did it predict, this is an outage, for example. So this happens a lot of times. How do you develop model trust? And that's when, if you have a glass box model, it's easier to explain. But if you have that product mindset married to data intuition, you can help your data PM understand them better. That, I believe in this model, you can go sell it, and these are the ways you can go sell it. So that's, those are the things I want to talk about. This is like the rapid life cycle, so I'll just keep it over here if someone wants to consume it, and I'll open the floor for Q&A. I think I have 4 minutes. So, yeah. I think they're on there.
Hi, thanks for the speech. So I do have a question about data product management. So one class I have taken this quarter is project management, and some of my classmates, they are MBA background, which means they don't have very strong technical background. So my question is, in the process of developing a data product, and there's one step called modeling and evaluation. I wonder in this step, how can we like communicate the results of evaluation to the non-technical background stakeholders or clients?
That's a good question, and that's a problem that I face. And I was asking to a bunch of experienced data scientists over there, how do they tell the story with data? One of the things that I work extensively with my data scientists is trying to be involved during even the modeling phases. Being hands-on with your data scientists and then working together with the product manager, it will bring two important skills when you sell that story to your stakeholders. One is, as I said, the data mindset, and then second is the product mindset. When you marry these two together, you'll be able to tell an amazing story to your stakeholders to help them understand that. So it's not necessarily that I need to be the data scientist to become a data PM, or the data scientist need to be a PM to sell that story. We can work collaboratively on that project to deliver that story and be involved through the entire process, right? If I am involved during the modeling process, I can inform them that, hey, why don't you take this parameter during your feature engineering? And they can tell me that, hey, the data quality of this is really shitty, I can't just adopt it, can I use something else? And then I'll go back to the users and ask them, hey, is there any other telemetry that I can use it? Is there any other user data that I have that can inform this particular parameter that is really important for this hypothesis? Otherwise, we scratch that and we go back to business understanding.
All right, cool. Any other questions? All right.
Hi, thank you for your informative talk. In continuation of what you were just talking about, as a product manager, have you ever, was there a certain need in your company that you do some kind of data digging and manipulation or check? So that was my first question. And the second is, what is how product manager and program manager are different? Because they are different, there are some overlap, but I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. To your first question, have I done data analysis? So when I started in this role, I really did not, I wasn't a data PM before this, I was a program manager. It's only in the last 3 months that I've started doing data analysis, because I have developed that kind of skills and some intuition on the few data sets that I am dealing with. So yes, I started coming in. People are really happy with additional resourcing, because data scientists, they're a constrained resource. So if you ask an engineering manager or a product manager, they will be really happy if you're able to do it. But if not, it's not a constraint for you to enter this team. The second question, the difference between program manager and product manager. As a PM, the reason why we are generalists is that in a particular point in time, we will be different. We will be doing different roles at different points in time. So during business understanding, I might be a product manager, but during product and modeling and evaluation, I might be a program manager, because I'm managing those 5, that big stakeholders. I might be just program managing, managing stakeholders, because that's a big thing as a program management. As a product management, you are the CEO of your product. You just look at the product, how can you make it better? So during different phases in your product lifecycle, you will be different people. To be very specific, if I go in other traditional industry terms of program management and product manager is usually the CEO of the product. They're trying to create a launch to market. They're trying to build the product with the software engineers. They're trying to do the UI, UX mocks. Versus program manager are the owners of a program with different tasks and description, where they're trying to add adoption to a particular program. And I wish I could give you an example of a program, but I cannot think of a real world example for a program. But yeah, they're managing tasks and one by one to establish a common goal.
All right, I think we're out of time, but thank you so much, Vanshika.